All right. What's good, everybody? Hope everybody's well. Welcome back to the Onyx Report, Black Masculinist news for the day. Yeah, been a little minute. Glad to be back up in here. It's been crazy. Just coming from my good brother, Dr. Anwar Dunbar's channel, Big Discussion 76, just had an interview. I hope you guys can hear me okay. Give me a 1 in the chat if you can hear me. Had some problems with StreamYard a little earlier. So if somebody can, all right, beautiful. Shout out to Layman's Journal. What's good with you, man? Man, good to be back in here. Got a few things to talk about tonight. I'm looking forward to getting some feedback on. Shout out to everybody in the house. What's up, Malika? What's going on? We got Dell, Prince. What's up? 1989. What's going on? Ilyas. What's going on? Assalamu alaikum. Revelator. What's going on? Ahmed. Dr. Thunder in the house, man. What's good, man? Saw you perform the other day on your channel. Beautiful work. Beautiful work, man. Saxophone. It was cold, man. So, glad to see you, still killing it. Kennard, what's going on? Leon, Michael, Blood Crow, what's happening? Hope everybody's well. Shout out to Barry Little, doing the Lord's work, putting all that information in about the channel. I very much appreciate it. Ken Lee, what's up? Ken Lee was over there at Dr. Dunbar's channel with me. Good to see you in here, man. AB, what's going on? Got Corey in the house. Dwayne, what's up? See you here. We got Donnie. What's good, Donnie? Hope you're well. Indigo, what's going on? Chef Mike, what's happening? All right. So we got the ones in the house. So I think we are good. What's up, John? Stefan, what's happening? All right. AJ, Neo, what's going on? So let me just kind of go in here. All right. Let me check one other thing. Okay, sorry about that. Let me fix my sound there. All right. So anyway, got a lot going on. So this week, we're going to be a little busy. I think one of the things I'm going to do Wednesday night, 5 p.m. Pacific. I think what I will do on Patreon is a film review. And man, if y'all don't know if I love you at this point, I don't know what else to tell you other than to suggest that you need to just go ahead and accept the fact that I do, because some of the shit that I do for y'all, it ain't no other motivation, bro, because I'm telling you, this mess. So this is the film that I will be reviewing Wednesday night. There it is, G20. I'm telling you, I have no desire to see this. Somebody reached out to me. I think it was it was Alan Obi. He reached him. I think he was in the theater watching it. I don't know, or wherever he was watching it from. And he was like, "Have you heard of this movie?" And I was like, "Man, I had no plans whatsoever to go watch that." So I think what we'll do is we'll do a Black Masculinist review of the film Wednesday night at 5 p.m. Pacific. Let me just double check that. Yeah. Oh no. You know what? I can't Wednesday. I'm gonna have to move it to Thursday because I already bought my tickets. I'm going to see Sinners on Wednesday night. I'm going to see Sinners with Michael B. Jordan. I'm looking forward to that. Last I checked, I think they got 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, so I think they're getting a lot of love. So yeah, I'm going to see Sinners. So I will do it Thursday night, where I'll do G20, and we'll just have to do it that way. And because I saw the trailer for that and I already knew I didn't want to see that mess, but it needs to be done, I guess. And this is what Big bucks, I guess, pay for. So Layman's Journal says he quit halfway through it. Stefan said, let me see. He said he quit halfway through it. I quit halfway through the trailer, man. I don't want to see that mess, man. I think the way I look at it, they really expected Kamala might win. I think that's what that mess was. And that was supposed to be a celebration of that, But that's my humble opinion. I haven't done any research yet on it, but we'll see. But moving back up a little bit, Brandon asked if I've seen Daredevil. Yeah, I've been watching it. I've been watching Daredevil. It's okay. It's okay. It's not doing well, but that's not the fault of the show necessarily. But I do think they needed to come out a little harder because they're doing a lot of talking, a lot of whatever, and people want to see the suit. They want to see Daredevil in action. And so, they have whole episodes where you don't see him, that's not the way to come out at this point in time. The way Disney has treated the Marvel universe, you need to come out strong and often. So I think that's what's going on there. Let's see. Perfect Blackness says, cannot wait to hear your take on Carmelo Anthony. I haven't delved into it. I will consider doing so at your mention. Commander Gore, truth is the economy is so bad they don't have time to hate black men right now. Yeah, well, they still find ways. I'll show you that in a moment. But Dwayne says, oh Lord, I heard this movie was terrible. Donnie says, skip that one, man. I want to. You have no idea how much I want to. Oh my goodness. But Barry says, you have my sympathy. Shout out to John. He said, we appreciate your sacrifice. Oh my goodness. I don't, but it was partially inspired by Layman's Journal. See, it's partially his fault because he just did a review of, what was it? Widows, I think it was. And it's an excellent review, as a matter of fact. I never saw the film. I never wanted to. But the thing Layman's Journal does is when he reviews a film, he'll do films that I may have heard of. Sometimes I never have, but I haven't watched even if I have heard of them. And then his review kind of makes me want to watch it because of what he pulls out of it. It's not necessarily that the film is good or bad. It's more his analysis of it that makes me curious about it. And so Widows also starred Viola Davis. So I was like, all right, she was kind of on my mind. G20 popped up. I was like, all right, this looks like something I'm going to end up having to do. So, yeah. Shout out to Neo. He says, oh, boy, let me take a guess from the trailer. Girl boss and black men as extras getting beat up. Yeah, I mean, from what I understand, she's the president. So, she's beating people up in a dress, as you can see. So we'll see how that goes. But, yeah, I am looking forward to Sinners. Everything from the trailers has looked good. It's been consistent. Michael B. Jordan is playing twins who have distinctly different personalities. And I personally think the brother is a good actor. So I'm looking forward to his performance altogether, but I've been impressed with a lot of what he's done. I'm still a fan of the Creed trilogy. I enjoy his work. Ryan Coogler, I like, had some problems with his Black Panther interpretation, but then there were things I liked about it, as much as I hated. So Coogler, though, has been fairly consistent from Fruitvale Station onwards. So I'm looking forward to Sinners and seeing how that goes. Dwayne says, I hope the movie's good because I love vampire movies and period pieces set in the 20s. Yeah, I hear you. Donnie says, Sinners looks good. Vampires versus voodoo. I don't know. I would be guessing to say yes or no. Obviously, the vampire piece is there, but I don't know how much of whatever else is there. I really tried not to read a lot about it. I didn't want it to be spoiled. I just wanted to walk in and just catch it and see what I can catch. So, and hopefully they'll have it in Fresno long enough for me to see it more than once. But we'll see. Let me see. Uber Cow says, women going to space today. That was supposed to be empowering women. Okay. Shout out to Spain Man. Says, salute. What's good with you, man? Equalizer says, he viewed G20 last night. All right. You let me know if it was a smashing success and everybody is trashing it for no reason. So, yeah. Somebody else says that Corey said it's terrible. Perfect Blackness says you have our permission to skip this one. Shout Shout out to Shay Sharday in the house. How you doing, lady? I hope you're well. Let's see. Oh my goodness, y'all are coming at it. Barry says the trailer looks like Queen Latifah's Equalizer meets the Woman King. Oh, that's cold. That's cold. Yeah, Chef Mike, I don't really care to see it either, you know. Anyway. Chef Mike says, I'm looking forward to Sinners. Just hope it's not a bad adaptation of Dusk Till Dawn. You know what I might do is I might do a review of that this week with no spoilers, because I really want people to take it in. I have a feeling it will be good. I don't want to spoil it for anybody. But like we did with Magazine Dreams, if there's enough of you that have seen the movie this week, and you can email me, hasan.johnson@gmail.com. If enough of you have seen it and you want to do, spoiler kind of an analysis, let me know. Shout out to Malika. If you guys get a chance to see it this week, you want to delve into it and you feel like it's worthy of being delved into, we can do that. I have a feeling I would enjoy that one. So we'll see. So anyway, Revelator says, I'm not interested in G20, not even a remote interest. I hear you. To me, it's like reviewing Barbie, but I think there are brothers that want it reviewed, not necessarily because they like it, but, in some respects want to have a response, and maybe want a response from a critique based on something that they didn't have to go watch themselves. So we'll see. Shout out to LXST. What's going on? Yeah, Red Sigma. I hear you there. Shout out to Dr. Dunbar for that donation. Appreciate that. Y'all make sure you check out the Dr. Dunbar show on the Big Discussion 76. Like I said, we just did an interview, had some technical issues, but other than that, I enjoyed being over there as I usually do. So shout out to the brother. And let me get my basic housekeeping on. Y'all know the deal. Like, share, subscribe, join, and donate. Support the channel. We can continue to bring you this independent black male thought. You know the deal. You can do Cash App, you can do the PayPal, the Venmo, or the Patreon and support the show. Or going through Patreon, you can become a member and support the show, as well as the Institute for Black Male Studies. And you can also join the film review session. So if you sign up for those, you have access to all the film reviews we've done. You can go check those out. So and if you're interested in getting on board, especially this week, dealing with G20, do so. You can come in live with us Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific. Remember that, Thursday, 5 p.m. Pacific, and come check it out and join in on the discussion. Shout out to Electrician 480. Appreciate that. Salute to you as well. So thanks for that. Salute to Passport OG. What's good with you, man? Hopefully you're well. So I hope everything is going well out there. So anyway, let's get to a couple of things here before we delve into our main topic. I had to reboot my computer during the show with Dr. Dunbar, so not everything is in the place I'd like to have it. So you might have to bear with me here and there, but let's get started. So this is a submission by one John Sweeney for the 18-point black male political agenda. And shout out to SL. He says, from my sacrifice. I appreciate that support, man. Thank you. Equalizer says, Dr. T, I advise drinking your favorite drink when you review G20. If you don't drink liquor, extra stink Tylenol will do. Oh my goodness. I suspect you are correct, sir. I suspect. Anyway, shout out to John Sweeney. So John sent me this via email, as you all can do. Any of you can do. If you want to add something to the black male political agenda, and he calls this the Emmett Till Law. So it's on 3 slides. So I will read it, and you guys can let me know your thoughts in the comment section, what you think, and of course I'm speaking to my playback crew. Give me your thoughts on this, what you might want to add, whether you think it's relevant or not. It's up to you. Shout out to Barry. Appreciate that support. Appreciate that super sticker. Thank you. It says those involved in the false accusations of a violent or sexual crime towards a party shall face criminal charges, penalties, and monetary compensation to the wrongly accused individual or individuals. The impact on an individual being falsely accused of a violent or sexual crime is without a doubt life-threatening, life-altering, and is something from which the accused may never be able to recover. Very true. It can result in jail time, loss of job and income, potential income, and loss of reputation, which can be immeasurable. Even after the victim's innocence has been established, they will still have a shroud which follows them throughout their lifetime despite their clear innocence. It impacts celebrities and athletes to the tune of millions of dollars in potential earnings due not only the time involved in fighting those allegations and loss of employment, yet also any future hiring potential due to the stigma attached to them as a brand. Now, this is true. This is true. And we know this can happen to men anywhere at any time, particularly in the West. It doesn't require any evidence. And as it stands, especially after the advent of Me Too, the woman doesn't even have to be identified publicly. So you can have, and matter of fact, we've seen women actually come at men who have expired, who've died, come after their estates to attack their reputations, even in the grave. So here you have a situation where anybody can be accused, most particularly men, right? Mainly men, really, because if men accuse women, it doesn't have the same cultural impact. But men can basically be accused of a crime with no evidence, without her having to suffer the, her reputation being fouled, even if she's found to be, lying. And this can have a lasting impact just at the accusation, right? Even if it's untrue, right? So he continues. He says it becomes detrimental to name, image, and likeness, earnings for commercial use, including endorsements, merchandise, and appearances for college athletes, professional athletes, celebrities, politicians, and others within the public highlight. For the average person, the impact can be crippling, preventing them from being able to live a productive life or even provide for their families. Anyone found to bring false accusations must receive jail time equal to the time the accused would have received. They must also pay any legal fees, loss of wages, including potential loss of NIL income incurred by the person who was falsely accused. Loss of wages and lifetime potential earnings for all others in the public eye should also be considered when establishing penalties and fines that will be assessed. City, state, and or any law firm involved shall be also found to be responsible for the loss of NIL earnings or potential income and found to pay accordingly. Let me see, there's one last section. Is any attorney or prosecutor involved in the false prosecution towards a person falsely accused would not fall under the classification of prosecutorial, and or sovereign immunity and should face lines and disbarment. Prosecution behind false allegations of violent and sexual crime should be considered as a crime involving moral turpitude, CIMT, the unethical conduct and unethical conduct. Using the definition according to the state of California as follows: a crime involving moral turpitude is a legal concept that refers to an offense that is considered to be morally or ethically wrong. CIMT is an offense that is committed with the intent to deceive, defraud, or harm another person and is considered to be a serious crime. Accused will also have their criminal record completely exonerated and wiped clean of any and all charges related to the false accusations, effective immediately, with documentation provided within no more than 30 days from the date innocence was established. So, in a nutshell, really trying to punish those who have engaged in false accusations, right? One of the things that we've talked about in the Black Male Political Agenda is we've developed a registry. I think that was the last thing added to the agenda. Let me go ahead and pull it up. So we had a registry in regard to false accusations so that anybody should be able to access it and determine if somebody is abusing this idea, right? So that is here. Point 18, false accusation offender registry, right? Create a false accusation offender registry for those who make false accusations for child molestation, abuse, domestic violence, false paternity, rape, sexual assault. Now, John actually suggests that this be either added to point 18, the registry, as a second component, or it should be a whole nother point on the agenda. So I want to hear back from you guys. Want to hear your thoughts on the idea, what you suggest, so on and so forth. Let's see what we got so far. So KG says, I think the penalty for false accusation should equal the penalty for the crime in which they are being accused. That's what John said. So you're in agreement there. Longo says recommended drink for watching G20 is tart cherry juice. Appreciate that. Let's see. Skip down a little bit. Shout out to Ian Graves. See you in there, man. Putting information out. Appreciate that as usual. Good brother's been doing so for quite a while. AG says that name probably wouldn't be able to go on the bill without the family's approval, right? Not sure. Good point to add though, because John has called it the Emmett Till Law. But it is something we can propose and go from there. Okay. Passport OG says, see, Sean Oakman cost him his first round contract. Yeah. Donnie says, this is good. Let's see. Brother John says, I would add that they be put on a nationwide false accusers list so they can't do it repeatedly. And also it can affect their professional licenses or employment options. Yep. Shout out to Greg on the Cash App. Appreciate that support. Yep. We got the registry up. So we're on the same accord, Brother John. Let me see. KG says men in government will have to stop simping and stand up to the feminists and the left on this one. Yeah, I think so. Great submission to the black male political agenda, according to Ian. Let's see. Red Sigma says, when you get rich as a black man, leave America. I don't know why you stick around. KG says, I think they like keeping the female accuser protected because it's a check on male power, just like abortion. Right. The argument we mostly hear is that if you start to crack down, then those who genuinely have experienced something heinous will hesitate to come forward. But the cost of that is that, you have, this is basically an unchecked power. If you tell half the population that they can accuse a man of anything they want with no repercussions, without even having to be known or addressed publicly, that's going to be a power that people are going to abuse at some point. And this is one of the things that men are talking about, black men in particular. And we can talk about it going all the way back to slavery, but clearly what John is pointing to with the Emmett Till Law is that we have a history in this country of, having our experiences dismissed and losing our lives at the base accusation made with no, kind of investment in evidence. So we of all people have an investment in the notion of having our reputation and our lives secure and protected from arbitrary, character assassination, right? Simply because somebody wants to. And that's what you tend to abuse when there are no checks and balances against, this kind of dynamic, especially when they don't even have to go through any formal channels. You could have this happen just going through public media. Someone decides to attack you publicly and accuse you of something with no evidence, and you have to, fight back, court of public opinion. That doesn't make any sense. Shout out to Stuart. It's good submission. I would add that if the false accusation led to the accused committing self-deletion, the false accuser should be charged with involuntary homicide. Ooh, Stuart. Damn. That's cold. I like that. That's wow. That's a good one right there. That's good. Because we know that happens. We know, the self-deletion rates are already more dramatic for men and for black men at that matter. But if it's caused due to a false accusation, there should be some, repercussions from that. Shout out to Red Signal. He says, I spammed the Trump team so hard with the 18 points, they blocked me on Twitter. I appreciate it, but you spam all of them. I don't care. Third parties, left, right. We need to just hit people with it, because these are your ideas. These are not ideas that I wrote down and I'm trying to get you to get on board with. These are ideas that came from you. So support your interests, support your political interests, and go from there. Brother John says protecting the female accuser protects the whole corrupt system. These women generate cases, legal fees, bail, hours of police and court labor, costs, etc. Yeah. Collector says, I think we should stop waiting on the authorities to create this registry and create and maintain one ourselves. Why wait? They will catch up when they catch up. Okay. Yeah, I got some brothers willing to do some work. Holler at me. Passport or G says, or can you bring up an incident from 40 years ago? Yeah. See Bill Cosby. Absolutely. Absolutely. Let me see here. Let's skip ahead a little bit. All right. Yeah. Indigo says, Stuart Goodwin. Also, if that accusation leads to another person doing harm to the falsely accused, proxy violence. Indeed. Absolutely. So shout out to y'all. Shout out to John. Appreciate that submission. And we'll go forward with that. And I will add Stuart's piece to that. I'm gonna have to come back to this point in the video and write it down, but appreciate that. Shout out to all of y'all for that. So that is the latest edition there. So let's get started. All right. So things have been a little interesting lately. We've seen, let me see what's going on. There we go. We've seen some things coming forth lately that have been consistent, but it almost seems like it's growing in population. And by that, I'm talking about the kinds of things that men are accused of. Now, I'm going to start with a couple of cases from the white community and we'll go from there. But I want to talk about this whole issue of what I call when everybody hates Chris for too long, right? The outcome of intracommunal black male hatred. So what I mean by that is we can definitely talk about black male hatred in society. This is why John's title for his addition to the black male political agenda is on point, right? Emmett Till is a reflection of that hatred, right? Where we have a legacy in this country of being killed arbitrarily simply because we exist. Whether we're innocent, whether we're guilty, none of that is even relevant. Our lives are forfeit simply because we're here. That is the legacy of black males in this country. But there's a whole nother level to it when you see that contempt happening within your own community. Now, this aggression is not limited to black men, but the harshest elements of it, black men tend to find themselves on the receiving end of. But let's look at some examples of how men are perceived even in the white community. So check this out. Let's see if I might bring this up a little bit. All right. So this is Channel 7, ABC Eyewitness News. Wife found guilty of murder in plot to kill prominent LA hairstylist in Woodland Hills. This is April 11th of this year. You can see her there. Right? Says the jury found 53-year-old woman guilty of murder and conspiracy in the plot to kill her husband, a celebrity hairstylist, at the home they shared with their two daughters in Woodland Hills, 2017. Jurors also found true the special circumstance allegations of murder for financial gain and murder while lying in wait. The 10-man, 2-woman jury deliberated about 8 hours and 45 minutes over 3 days before reaching its verdict on Friday. Fabio Cementilli was stabbed to death in the backyard of his Woodland Hills home in 2017. Killer initially was thought to be a home invasion gone wrong, but investigators soon zeroed in on Fabio's wife, Monica, and her lover, Robert Baker, a convicted sex offender and former porn star. Baker pleaded no contest and was convicted of killing Fabio. He was sentenced to life in prison without possibility of parole, the same sentence that Cementilli now faces. Sentencing was set for June 23rd. Now, that's interesting, because much of the time, women don't get caught up in these kind of situations. Usually it presents, at least in the data, as, one man killing another, right? But I don't know if she helped. I don't know how they found out. Maybe the article will go into some more description, but, she looks like she's going to get the same sentence as the man she hired. And again, going back to Warren Farrell's work, and I think this was in one of his early books in the 1980s. He talked about this. He said, generally, when it comes to spousal murder, what you tend to have is wealthier women hire assassins. Poorer women use sex to get, men, working class men to commit the act of murder on their behalf. Both are forms of proxy violence, of course, but the more distance a woman can put between herself and the murder, the more, she's protected. And that's what they go out to do in the first place. So in this particular instance, this woman was caught, right? She cried as the verdicts were read. Today marks the day of healing. Fabio's sister, Morella, said, justice was served today. It's the most beautiful day for our family. Our spirits are lifted. My brother can now rest in peace, and the murderers that have deceived him are exactly where they belong. We're overjoyed that she will spend the rest of her life in jail, no parole, said Fabio's other sister, Lori. Monica's defense team says they will appeal. We're very disappointed. We continue to believe that Monica had nothing to do with her husband's murder, and we will pursue every legal avenue to obtain her eventual exoneration and her freedom. Coming from Leonard Levine, Monica's attorney, another man, Chris Austin, who helped Baker stab Fabio, pleaded guilty to second-degree murder in exchange for his testimony. He faces 16 years in prison when he's sentenced in April. Prosecutors say Monica was the mastermind behind the plot to kill her husband. She's the one who destroyed so many lives and their entire family. No one else did that. There's no one else to blame. Deputy District Attorney Beth Silverman said. Silverman made the case that Monica wanted Fabio dead so she could inherit his estate and be with Baker. They destroyed evidence. They deleted evidence. They tried to hide the planning behavior so that they could have this new future together. She also said in closing arguments Monday, both Baker and Austin testified earlier in this trial. Austin testified that Monica was in on the murder plot and left doors at her Woodland Hills home open so he and Baker could get in easily. But Baker told jurors Monica had no clue that he was going to kill Fabio, that he committed the crime because he wanted Monica for himself. Okay, Monica's defense attorney pounded home that Monica is guilty only of having an affair. For that, she is responsible and will live with that for the rest of her life. But adultery is not murder. Levine has painted Monica as a loving wife and mother who had no reason to want her husband dead. Her use of encrypted apps to communicate with Baker, Levine said, was simply to hide the affair she was having with Baker and not involvement in the killing. Everything she did was to protect the affair, not to cover up the murder. She was obsessed with her family not finding out, with anybody not finding out. Sementilli has remained behind bars since her arrest in 2017 when she and Baker were charged with murdering her husband. Conspiracy charge was subsequently added against the pair. The two were indicted just over 2 months later on the same charges. Austin has also remained behind bars since his arrest. This is what we're looking at. Yeah, exactly, Donnie. How many movies have the same plot? Yeah. Okay. Shout out to Incognegro. Appreciate that support. Thanks for the support. Thank you for that. Growth Talk. What's good? Y'all support the Growth Talk with Kofa channel. He's doing some good work over there. Hope you're well, brother. Appreciate that support. Thank you. Dwayne says, i.e., girls in the hood getting their brothers locked up and or killed over lies. Yes. Those are the kind of things that we tend to see. Yeah. Let's see here. Yeah. Okay. So this is one case, right? Woman killing her husband. We're starting to see more of these kinds of incidents. This is not uncommon when it comes to acts of murder. But there's another type of issue I want to point to as it pertains to what men experience from women. We're going to look at both types tonight. There we go. All right. So this is the next one. Illinois teacher Christina Formella, arrives glammed up to court with stone-faced husband, and she faces charges of molesting student, 15 years old. This came out April 14th, 2025. And you can see them there. Right? Husband over here to the side. Woman right there. Wheaton, Illinois. Teacher Christina Fermella has arrived with her husband at court. She faces charges of molesting her 15-year-old student. Right? Appearing glammed up with full face makeup, 30-year-old said nothing as she entered the DuPage County Courthouse here. There you go. There she is. And these little, there we go. She's accused of carrying on a month-long affair with a teenage student, which ended with them having sex in a classroom. Now, there are a lot of these cases that I've run across in the last 2 months alone, but this one I just grabbed, to just kind of illustrate that this is happening. And I think it's happening quite a bit in the West, most particularly. And it's kind of consistent with the data. If you look at the child maltreatment report, we've gone through that report several times in the last number of years as new editions of it have come out. What we tend to find when it comes to child homicide, abuse, what you tend to find that women do, and this includes when they're caretakers to elderly men, it seems to be a feature, a human feature, that there are going to always be some people who are going to abuse and take advantage of the vulnerable, whatever form that vulnerable comes in. However, when it comes to child abuse and child homicide, what we tend to find is the aggressors tend to be women. They often tend to be the mothers themselves. And when they delete a child, statistically, it tends to be more males than females that get deleted, right? But these are some of the things we notice. Now, when it comes to molestation, when it comes to rape or sexual assault, one of the things we notice is that for years, for generations, really, since these issues were introduced, most particularly by feminists politically, it's been fixated on women as victims, males as aggressors. But this is not new. This dynamic is quite old, and it is not limited to one gender by any means. The more aggressive aspects of it, one may be able to attribute more to males and due to, testosterone and physical strength. But that's not the only way people are sexually violated. That's not the only way people are deleted. There are a lot of different ways that can happen. Coercion is a huge factor, and the exploitation of positions of power. So you can be physically stronger as an inmate in a prison and have a guard take advantage of you who doesn't have to be as strong as you, right? Especially if they have a weapon. You can deal with a teacher in a classroom and younger males. And I can tell you emotionally, 15-year-old boys, for the most part, aren't even ready to deal with 15-year-old girls much of the time, let alone what a 30-year-old woman can do to you. Right? But we only have that conversation when it's older men. Even though we're seeing more examples of women in positions of authority who are violating men and boys, very little conversation, because it's not consistent with the cultural zeitgeist. It's not consistent with how we understand these issues, right? We come out of a legacy where exploiting the vulnerable, be it sexually or in terms of violence, is feminists have kind of cornered the market on that for women and girls only. So, the reality behind these experiences, a lot of people don't know how to deal with because they don't have to. As long as they're comfortable just focusing their attention on male aggressors, they can escape any kind of accountability. But let's continue. She was flanked by her lawyer and her college sweetheart husband, whom she allegedly kept in the dark about her twisted affair, of course. And one of the things you notice, especially with the white women in this, they tend to be married. That's the interesting thing about it. They tend to be married and will still do this kind of thing and get caught. And he showed up to court. Yeah, that wouldn't be me. But anyway, neither of them answered questions outside the court ahead of the hearing. Formella pleaded not guilty during the short hearing on Monday. Her spouse, Michael, sat emotionless in court as the prosecution went over the charges against his wife and set out how, if convicted, she would have to sign on to the sex offender registry. Yep. You can see her there, glammed up versus the mugshot. Her father-in-law, Randy Formella, was also in court to support her. The elder Formella, president of E. Formella and Sons, a suburban Chicago-based Italian food manufacturing business, refused to say why he supports his daughter-in-law when asked by the Post. Formella and her husband left the court via the back door after her brief appearance. The next court date is scheduled for Friday to discuss a motion on media coverage. Let's see. She was accused of carrying a month-long affair with a teenage student, which ended with them having sex in a classroom. Her spouse told cops he was totally blindsided when news of his wife's alleged affair came to light, according to court documents. Christina, a former college soccer player, tied the knot with Michael, a former college baseball player, last summer, around 6 months after the alleged abuse, according to the docs. Damn. The pair met at Concordia University, Chicago, where they started dating, and photos from their wedding show the pair dancing and kissing while loved ones looked on and cheered. All right. Throughout the interview, Formella tried to paint the accuser as her stalker and has claimed that her husband was aware. Wow. Okay. Oddly enough, her husband told detectives that he knows nothing about. Damn it, this is irritating. Sorry. Nothing about accuser beyond his status as a soccer player. Formella has denied all charges and claimed to cops that she's being targeted because she's good looking. Now, I will say, when it comes to male teachers, I have had brothers come forth and say that they've been falsely accused simply because they gave a female student, a grade they didn't like, or they disciplined them in a way they didn't like. And so they had female students, who used what we were talking about earlier, the ability to accuse even without evidence as a controlling gesture, right? In terms of disrupting men's authority in the classroom. So I have seen that happen, in terms of students coming up with false accusations. I can't say I've seen a lot of male students who are victims of sexual assault or proclaim themselves to be victims use this to attack women. I can't say I've seen a lot of that, but that's what she's suggesting. She also appeared to blame the teenager for ruining her marriage in torrid diary entries found on her phone. Okay. I went back and screenshotted every single time that I said we should break up until after the wedding and after you graduated. Wait a minute. She also appeared to blame the teenager for ruining her marriage in torrid diary entries found on her phone, according to court documents. I went back and screenshotted every single time that I said we should break up until after the wedding and after you graduated. So she's blaming him. Okay. So he ruined her marriage, not because they didn't have sex, but because she tried to break it off before the wedding and he would not acquiesce. That's how he ruined her marriage. Okay. Every single effing time you came back and convinced me it would be fine, you ruined us. Now she's talking to a 15-year-old young man. This is a 30-year-old woman. And every single effing time you came back and convinced me it would be fine. This is the victim mentality, right? This is how she's using this. She's suggesting that this 15-year-old young man, he didn't physically assault her. He didn't threaten her. He didn't put a knife to her throat to make her do anything. He just didn't want to stop when she wanted to, and thus ruined her marriage because he convinced her it would be fine, right? I warned you that we should have never started dating a long, long effing time ago, and you gaslit me and convinced me it was fine. The audacity, damn. She also allegedly expressed sick hopes that the teen would reach back out to her and rekindle the relationship, according to court docs. We will be in each other's lives forever. We will be able to love each other while also living our own lives, she allegedly wrote. So, again, this is not something that is solely in the purview of any one community. This is something we've been seeing, particularly with white women, for a minute. Shout out to Donnie. Appreciate that sports is trying to strike a chord, and it's probably a minor. Oh, wow. This is cold. Shout out to Ghetto User. Appreciate that sports, as this has been going on a long time. It's just being revealed through social media. Your institute has been at the forefront in helping to expose the true nature of women. No accountability as usual. None. And this has been going on for a long time. This is not just, teachers for that matter. It's not. I've seen this kind of thing with doctors. I've seen this kind of thing with female doctors. I've seen this kind of thing with nuns, right? This is something that women in positions of power over those who are vulnerable have been able to exploit. And I don't suggest that this is some some extreme whatever. This is human. It's just that women have been barred from being held accountable as human beings, and men haven't. So men receive the most of the blame, and women kind of get to sidestep it. But it's reaching a fever pitch where you can't really hide this kind of stuff anymore. That's the problem. You can't really hide it. Shout out to AB. He says, "Can you imagine the backlash if a dude says this?" Exactly. If a man got up here talking about she gaslit me, she convinced me to keep doing this. This 15-year-old girl, and I'm a 30-year-old man, but she gaslit me and convinced me, and that's how she ruined my marriage. The audacity. Well, really, it's not even just the audacity. It's the entitlement. You make this statement, and you fully believe it. You believe that this is something that the public should actually feel sorry with you for you about. Okay, well, let's look at some other cases. So let's bring this a little closer to home. Advertisements are killing me. All right. Now, this one is something you guys may have run into recently. May have seen this. Hold on. This is middle school assistant principal force student to rub her feet. Yeah. This is an interesting one. She also called him sexual chocolate, which I don't understand. But anyway, let's actually delve into this one, right? So this is a 53-year-old woman with a doctorate. Dr. Kiva Lark, 53, has been charged with lewd, lascivious conduct and lewd offense against a student by an authority figure. Let's see if they have a better picture of her. Oh, they didn't. They just have the video of her. It's not going to go. Never mind. I thought they'd have a better picture of her up here. I think I can find it, because I think you guys do need to see this. All right. So this is a 53-year-old woman. This is an authority figure. She's an assistant principal. And she has been, and carrying on. Let me see. All right. Yeah, this is probably the most pathetic picture, but you guys do need to see it. So that's her. That is the mugshot. Polk County assistant principal arrested after having a student rub her feet. This is what we're looking at. All right. Go back to the article here. All right. So it reads, in Florida, an assistant principal at Lake Marion Creek Middle School is behind bars after deputies said she forced a 13-year-old student to massage her feet. Dr. Lark has been charged with lewd, lascivious conduct and lewd offense against the student by an authority figure. Polk County Sheriff's Office said in a news release. Through an investigation, deputies learned that the incident happened after the 13-year-old student was sent to Lark's office for throwing balled-up paper across the classroom during a test. While in the office, according to the two witnesses and the victim, Lark told the victim to rub her feet since he didn't have anything better to do with his hands, deputies said. She removed her shoes and placed her legs across the victim's lap, and he did as he was told. The agency added that witnesses could hear Lark scolding the student for not rubbing her feet correctly, demonstrating how she would like to be massaged by rubbing a 13-year-old's arm and shoulder, or rubbing the 13-year-old's arm and shoulder. So she demonstrated on him what she wanted him to do to her feet. One witness reportedly heard Lark tell the student to rub her feet like he loved her. Wow. Right? This is the kind of abuse of authority that gets ignored for the most part. Now, here's the rub. It's not that they get ignored individually. We hear about them for a moment, and some of these women actually do get sentenced. Many of them get slapped on the hand. Some actually get sentenced. But the issue is it tends to not have traction in the larger culture, particularly in the mainstream. So it's not that these women are never heard about at all. We get this article. The issue is 5 years from now, are you going to hear about her? Are you even going to hear about this practice of exploiting boys in school? Right. So we get name after name after name of woman after woman after woman. They pop up, they get sentenced, or they get their hand slapped, and then they disappear. There's no resonance. There's no momentum. There's nothing that happens in the culture in response to this. They're individually viewed, or they're viewed as individual situations that just, have just die out. But when it's men, it becomes a reaffirming of an age-old idea that men are sexual aggressors and the only ones that need to be acknowledged. When I would argue, and I've done so in my research as well, that whether we're talking about homicide, physical abuse, or sexual abuse of some sort, it's not that men just do it more than women. It's often that men and women have different ways of doing it. And only men's ways of doing it have been criminalized and publicized. Women's ways tend to be less directly aggressive, but that doesn't make them any less dangerous. It just means they don't get held accountable in the same fashion, right? So continuing on. So she says to rub her feet like he loved her. A witness also heard Lark tell the victim that she was doing this so he would know what foreplay is for when he gets a girlfriend. Oh, goodness. During a forensic interview with the 13-year-old, he reportedly told investigators Lark would refer to him as sexy chocolate while passing him in the hallway at school. When deputies questioned Lark, she told him that it was done as a joke in an effort to humble the student. It's completely inappropriate for a 53-year-old woman to act and talk like this to a middle school boy, Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd stated in the release. It's even worse given that this was an assistant principal and her student. Lark reportedly later admitted that her actions were inappropriate for her profession, but still denies saying anything inappropriate to the 13-year-old. Superintendent Fred Heed released this following statement after Lark's arrest. This is an aberrant behavior for anyone who works among students, especially an administrator. This person no longer has any business being around children. We commend the school principal for immediately reporting this incident so we could take action and work with the Polk County Sheriff's Office to protect students. That's the end of that one. Right. So I don't know how many of you heard of that case or not. Shout out to Gail at Night. How you doing, lady? Let's see. So AB says, this is why we have a bunch of R. Kellys running around the Black community. This is real. This is real. Because R. Kelly himself was molested by his sister. To my understanding, both he and his brother were. There's no conversation about that. Even when that became publicly known, just like these cases I'm pointing out, it disappeared and it just became about R. Kelly. But when the female is an aggressor, sometimes, more often than not, what will happen is the question will become, well, what happened in her past that made her this way? And they'll go into looking at what trauma she may have experienced. With men, not so much. So you're dead on with that one, AB. Definitely. Anime Diaries says women's incarceration has grown at twice the pace of men's incarceration in recent decades. Source prisonpolicy.org. Yep, appreciate that. Appreciate the donation. Thank you very much. Right. So these are the kind of things that we're looking at so far. We got some more because I definitely want to alert you. Now this one, this one's hard. I'm just going to tell you that in advance. This one's hard. Now, this was on Facebook, so I want to make sure you guys can hear it. So I'm just going to tap it for a second and give me a 1 if you can hear it.
Did you end up having?
Okay, so if you could hear that little bit of sound, let me know. Give me a 1 if you heard that at all. Okay, Kiel says there was a 1. All right. So this one is rough. This one is rough. Y'all check this out.
Having sex with your mom.
Well, I remember
With your mom.
Well, I remember vividly because I can't erase it from my mind. Just one particular day, when everybody else was gone, she made sure of that, so she brought me to her bedroom. and she laid me on the bed and she got on top. And the fact was once she pulled her clothes on, I don't know, it just seeing her body, you know, I already got a
Right, had an erection. I mean,
Yeah,
you're a
so-
12-year-old boy,
yeah,
so
she got,
anything could give you an erection at
she got
12.
on top of me and she wrote, you know, and after that she told me get up. And so I went about my business like that and that. But the strangest thing, I mean, like I said, the sick part about it that I like. And that's the part that
So I mean, I guess so. Even as an adult, you see that as something that you had control over. Like
Yeah.
do you see in hindsight now? You was
Yeah.
12 years old. You didn't have
Yeah.
control over that.
Yeah.
You didn't have control over. In other words, you liking it is a function. It's a natural function
Yeah.
that we're wired that way. You're going to like sex.
Right.
So that's what happened. And you know,
it was my first experience with a woman.
so okay. So let me ask. I mean, so it sounds like it was ongoing. How often did this happen up until 14?
Well, I mean, it didn't happen like every day, but it happened enough to, you know, like it at least once, sometime more, twice a week, but at least once a week.
So this was a once a week thing.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
So I mean, after a while, was you initiating it or was she initiating it?
Oh no, I never missed.
So it was always her. So how would she do that? Would she just call you into her room and
Yeah. I mean, you know, a lot of times she would take me off somewhere else, on a private location, you know, secure place, you know, and so that kind of like gave me a different view of women for a long time. I only seen women just a sex object.
how did you end up having sex with your mom?
All right.
Well,
That was the total clip. It started abruptly, but if you couldn't hear it, yes, he is actually talking about at 12 years old, his mother started to violate him. And because of that, his inexperience, his age, he said at a certain point, he started to engage it. He started to enjoy it. He never initiated. It happened at least once a week, but this was something that his mother imposed. Now, this is not new. It's not that nobody's heard of these kinds of things, but again, there's social traction. There's cultural traction when we talk about a father or an adult male doing this to a girl. We often don't even have a picture of what that experience is like for a boy who's violated by his mother, even though we've had quite a few of them, even amongst Black male celebrities. I did a blog some years ago where I even listed how many had gone through variations of this same story. But the point is, there's quite a few, and it's not a random event. I shouldn't say it's not a random event. It's not an unknown practice. It's simply one that we've allowed women and girls to be interpreted in one way, but men and boys to virtually be ignored, to the point where this video in 2025 is a shock. But if this was a young woman talking about being violated by an older family member or her father, it would be disgusting, of course, but maybe not as shocking. It's only shocking because we virtually ignore men and boys that have gone through this experience. And again, I want to reiterate, he was 12 years old. He was 12 years old. So we're looking at the various ways so far that we can talk about the hatred of Black men, the abuse of Black men and boys, and the ways in which it tends to go ignored on a variety of fronts, whether we're talking about sexual assault, whether we're talking about physical abuse. We're looking at the ways in which these things remain ignored. Here's another for you. And I got one main one that I want to get to, but I want to preface it by showing you, how prevalent these things still are and how much we tend to ignore them, right? So this is People, right? People.com. It says hospital staff believe husband's death was suspicious. An autopsy revealed the unthinkable. Phil Frederick died September 2021, and his killer was just convicted of malice murder. There you go. Right? A Georgia woman was sentenced to life in prison last week after being found guilty of poisoning her husband to death with a cocktail that contained antifreeze. Now, this is dated April 1st of this year, so just a couple weeks ago. Okay. All right. Tori Frederick was found guilty following a 2-year investigation into her husband Phil Frederick's death in September 2021. The Thomas County Sheriff's Office confirmed in a statement Thursday, March 27th. Prosecutors said that Phil died from ethylene glycol poisoning, which is a substance commonly found in antifreeze and brake fluid, according to the Thomas County Sheriff's Office. The office said emergency room staff at Archbold Memorial Hospital became suspicious of Frederick's death, or husband's illness, and suspected he was poisoned. Phil died a week after he was rushed to the hospital, according to the Miami Herald. An autopsy later showed he had ingested the chemical often found in antifreeze. Frederick was found guilty last Thursday of felony malice murder and aggravated assault. The guilty verdict came after Frederick's 2 children appeared to recant information during court testimony that prosecutors said they previously told police during the investigation into their father's death, according to court reporting by Thomasville Times-Enterprise. The defense argued that the victim's death was a suicide. The Frederick's children, Phil Jr. and Phil Nisha, told prosecutors they never saw their father drink the cocktail that investigators say Phil Jr. initially described to police during the death investigation. Newspaper reported that Phil Jr. told prosecutors he had only told investigators what they wanted to hear, an assertion prosecutors pushed back on during the testimony. Investigators never located the antifreeze or the cocktail that Frederick allegedly gave her husband the night he died. Her defense team argued. The outlet reported that Frederick's sentencing comes with the possibility of parole. Interesting. People reached out to Frederick's defense attorney for comment this week, but did not immediately receive a reply. So there you go. Apparently, she is going in for murdering her husband by poisoning him. Right? That's what we're dealing with. This one, let me see. Let's actually go. I'll go with a little pink book on this one. Hold on. So I think I'm going to speed her up a little bit. Shout out to Pink Book. She's actually been staying on top of a lot of these situations. I appreciate her work doing this. This one you guys may have seen very recently. But here we go. Turn this up.
A Dauphin County judge sent many defendants to jail, and this week she was just hauled off the jail herself, where she's going to be for a very long time, possibly forever. Finally, the 58-year-old city girl judge of PA, Sonia McKnight, was held accountable after years of reckless and dangerous behavior. I first brought this story to you over a year ago when the sitting judge was arrested after a night at her boyfriend's house left him shot in the temple and blind. Back then, it was super shocking to see a sitting judge being hauled off to jail, but she took her mug shot and was released. Later, we found...
Now, both Pink Book and myself reported on this when it happened, but this is where she's actually been sentenced.
Found her in the club, bragging about having bail money. For the second time, Sonia had put a bullet in a man that she was in a relationship with, and the dishonorable judge thought she could somehow get away with it just as she did before. But no, this time it was different. The judge with a bad sense of judgment wasn't so lucky.
News 8 has learned suspended Dauphin County Judge Sonia McKnight, who was found guilty of attempted murder yesterday, is in the Cumberland County Prison. Dauphin County Prison tells us McKnight was taken from the courthouse to Cumberland County Prison, saying it's part of a Warren's agreement because she was a judge in Dauphin County. She was convicted of shooting her ex-boyfriend while he was sleeping last year. McKnight is scheduled to be sentenced May 28th.
Sonia Baltimore McKnight was first elected as judge on November 3rd, 2015. 6 years later, she won her re-election bid in 2021 after several criminal violations, including the most serious offense against her ex-husband. In 2014, Sonia got married and was so combative it barely survived 2 years before the divorce was filed. They lived apart for a year or so. He was moving down to North Carolina to get away and start over completely with the help of his sister. Sonia, who was separated from him and still going through a divorce, tried to stop him from leaving. In October 2018, he was finally set to leave PA to head down to North Carolina with his sister, but Sonia did not want him to leave. So she stole his keys, jumped in his car, and tried to drive off and steal it. He ran to her and tried to pull her out his car, but she wouldn't stop the car and ended up rolling into a fire hydrant. And of course, when the police got there, she started telling a bunch of lies and playing innocent.
I used to have discussions with Black women colleagues, and they would point out that these types of things are class-based, right? And they would tell me things like, well, this only happens with ghetto Black women, or this only happens. And I'll be the first to point out, I've seen these kind of things, happen with women with degrees, with women with white collar jobs. It's always a point of contention, where you have some people that are really comfortable with this idea that this only happens in the hood. No, not at all. Not at all. When black men are perceived as property, this can happen anywhere. We've seen this happen with black women politicians, judges. We've seen this happen with police officers. This is not limited by class to any degree.
He told officers she was going to the grocery store in his car, and he was violently trying to get her out of the car, attempting to remove her hands from his wheel. Now, according to his sister, who heard the whole dispute, Sonya got mad at him because she didn't want him to leave and go to her house in North Carolina. So in the testimony provided by the sister, she accused Sonya of preventing him from leaving, and that's the real reason why she stole his car. Prosecutors ignored his sister's testimony and sided with their sister in law enforcement, Judge Sonya McKnight. She flipped the whole situation and even tried to weaponize her authority in relationships to get him locked up when she was indeed the combative one. Sonya pressed charges against him and got a restraining order. He was jailed for 15 days and was later placed on parole for 23 months. Now, she was the one who violated the law but was successfully able to put it all on him. And that wasn't enough for Sonya. She kept harassing her husband and continued to destroy his life. She made false claims saying he violated the order 23 times, but according to the husband, she was the one showing up to his apartment. This is after he told her to stop popping up at his house. And get this, his co-workers even provided testimony that she was popping up to their job talking about reconciling with him. And once again, her crooked law enforcement friends believed her and violated him instead. Yeah, they arrested him. Meanwhile, she was going to the judge asking for economic relief during the pending divorce. She wanted her husband of only 2 years before the divorce filing to pay money to her every month. He worked as an HVAC tech, and she wanted a percentage of that check. That restraining order was downgraded to allow peaceful contact. Then she lured her estranged husband to her house to move furniture. One chair was moved successfully, but while he was moving the other, Sonya ambushed him, shot him in the groin and hand.
Police in Harrisburg are investigating a shooting at a home that, according to property tax records, is owned by a Dauphin County Magisterial District Judge. A lot of the details have unfolded about this case throughout the day. Fox 43's Samantha Galvez joins us now in Harrisburg with what we know right now.
Jackie, we know that a woman that lives at this home fired a shot against a man she had an active protection from abuse order against. Now, that's according to the Dauphin County District Attorney. All day long, we've told you that the home is owned by the Magisterial District Judge, Sonya McKnight, but it is unconfirmed that she currently lives here. The shooting happened just after 8:30 this morning on the 2700 block of Lexington Street. This afternoon, many people surrounding the home, sharing hugs, as well as police and canines investigating the area. While the people involved have not been identified, property tax records show it is owned by Magisterial District Judge Sonya McKnight. We did some digging and found that a PFA was filed against McKnight's husband, Enoch, back in October. In it, he is barred from McKnight's address. Additional court documents show just one day before the PFA was granted, Enoch was charged with simple assault, reckless endangerment, and criminal mischief. The documents go on to explain he assaulted Sonya. We spoke with a neighbor who has lived down the street for 13 years. She also knows Judge McKnight. She says she was asleep when it happened, but heard about it after being woken up by numerous phone calls.
Too close to home. It's right down the street from me. And it's just like, it needs to stop.
Now, the man that was shot is in stable condition. As for the woman that fired that shot, she is cooperating with police.
Somehow, this possessive woman thought she could control him. That was one of the main issues in the relationship, then using her position as a judge to get him in trouble. We're talking about popping up to his job in his apartment, violating the restraining order, then reporting him for doing it. Getting him locked up twice after she stole his car, preventing him from going down to North Carolina with his sister. And now she had lured him over to her house to get furniture with a premeditated plan to do exactly what she did. But once again, he was the one treated like the suspect. Paramedics rushed him to the hospital where they had him stuck to the bed with an ankle monitor. Now, anybody with common sense could tell the judge was being conniving and manipulative. She twisted the whole story around as if there was a mutual dispute, and somehow she had no other choice. But I guess common sense isn't so common in the Commonwealth. You have a man shot while moving a chair, mid-move, chair in hand, boom. And for the umpteenth time, all of her law enforcement partners protected her. They went on to justify the shooting and cleared her after being on paid administrative leave. In 2020, her then 33-year-old son was pulled over by police. He called his mama to his rescue. That's when Sonya pulled up, removed a pill bottle from her son's car, and started snapping on police, asking for the police chief to get down there. It was that incident that got her caught up and charged with official oppression and tampering with evidence after police accused her of interfering with the arrest of her grown-behind 33-year-old son. The following year, she got off again. Sonya was acquitted of all charges and praised God on the steps of the courthouse.
I feel great. God is good. Yes, he's good. So I'm thankful and I'm grateful. Yes, God will Yeah, he will intervene, but he will also vindicate you of all righteousness. When you keep the faith and trust him, he said, "No good thing will I withhold from you." So I'm grateful to God on this day for believing in me and knowing that I did nothing wrong.
And a magisterial district judge in Dauphin County will be suspended one more time after a run-in with Harrisburg police 3 years ago. Sonia McKnight was acquitted of criminal charges after being accused of interfering with the arrest of her son in 2020. She spent more than 6 months suspended without pay in 2021 while that criminal case played out, then returned to the bench after her acquittal. But last year, the PA Court of Judicial Discipline ruled that McKnight had misused her power as a judge. And today it outlined McKnight's punishment, a 200-day unpaid suspension of which she's already served 190 days. McKnight will begin serving the remaining 10 days of the suspension on February 9th, then spend 1 year on probation and must not commit any further ethical violations.
The board will finally step in where they investigated her for ethics violations from stealing time.
Now, keep in mind, we still haven't gotten to what's going on with her now. This is still all history, right? So she done already shot one boyfriend.
To forcing her employees to violate rules and laws, and even being accused of owing another woman nearly $2,100. But when that woman went to the court to file the complaint and submit her filing fees, to appear in small claims court, the city girl judge instructed her clerk to act like she never received it so the case would move forward. I mean, she had a slew of ethics violations and was eventually suspended. But while the investigation into those last set of accusations was going on, Sonia was arrested once again, this time for attempted homicide after getting dumped by her new boyfriend.
Suspended Harrisburg District Judge Sonia McKnight, arrested today, is facing some serious charges.
She is accused of shooting a man in the head last Saturday morning inside a home in Dauphin County. Fox 43's Robert Stover joins us now to break down the charges McKnight is facing and the timeline of events. Robert.
Well, suspended Harrisburg District Judge Sonia McKnight was arrested this afternoon and charged with attempted murder. McKnight was also charged with aggravated assault. Tonight, Cumberland County District Attorney Sean McCormick says it's connected to a shooting last Saturday in Susquehanna Township. Sonia McKnight was seen leaving the Susquehanna Township Police Department in handcuffs and leg shackles Thursday afternoon before being transported to Dauphin County Prison. Authorities confirmed the shooting happened early Saturday morning on the 200 block of Saddle Ridge Drive in Susquehanna Township. While the victim was shot in the head, he is expected to be okay, though he is now blind in one eye. McKnight and the victim were confirmed to be the only people in the home at the time of the shooting. The Cumberland County District Attorney's Office confirmed they are leading the investigation after the Dauphin County District Attorney and the State Attorney General's Office both recused themselves due to a conflict of interest. McKnight's bail is currently set at $300,000.
Her ex-husband was able to get some relief when Sonia found a new man to destroy. That's her new boyfriend, Michael McCoy. In early 2024, she had been seeing Michael for about a year. And on the evening of the incident, Michael told her for the final time that he was done with her for real. He was fed up with their short, tumultuous relationship. He instructed her to move out of his house. Sonia agreed she would. Michael fell asleep and later woke up to the worst headache he ever felt. He opened his eyes but couldn't see anything. And the pain was so intense, he thought he was having a brain aneurysm. He yelled for Sonia to call the ambulance, and when responders got on scene, they clearly saw he had been shot. When questioned, Sonia did what she normally did. She lied and started making up stories. In this situation, she said the victim did it to himself. She ran to tamper with evidence just like she did in every other case, rushed to wash her hands to try to hide gun residue, and then tried to convince everybody that she was innocent and it was all his fault. Just like she did with her ex-husband.
Yeah, so today kicked off with the judge explaining to the jury how they would be kind of handling these jury deliberations, what they should know, the rules about it, if you would. But one thing that I found very, very interesting in the explanation of how the jury should head into the deliberation room is he talked about how Sonia McKnight did not get on the stand. So, Michael McCoy, the man that, Sonia is now accused of shooting the head, he took the stand yesterday, but McKnight never did. And the judge told the jury that is not evidence against McKnight. This is not something that you can hold against her.
Closing arguments. Can you talk about what the DA said?
Yeah, so the DA, he started his closing arguments sitting down and he says, looks at the jury, says, typically you go to sleep and you'll have a nightmare. You wake up from it and it's over. He said Michael McCoy on February 10th, 2024, he woke up to the nightmare. He detailed how, this was a heinous crime committed by Sonia McKnight. He asked the jury to put one and one together to come to the conclusion who shot him, and take a listen to him explaining what that sounded like.
Using your common sense, that's what I urge the jurors to do. There were two people in that house and only two people in that house. And one of them, the one who was shot, said he did not shoot himself. The logical conclusion is the other person did it. And I'm glad the jury ultimately saw the truth in that statement and they found her guilty on all charges here today.
Elise, you spent hours inside the courtroom over the past 3 days, so a lot to get to and unpack.
Yeah, so I mean, this trial was jam-packed. The jury came from Delaware County, so really it seemed like they were trying to get as much into the day as possible. The trial kicked off Monday. We were in the courtroom from 9 a.m. until 9:15 p.m., just taking one lunch break, one morning break, one afternoon break. And then yesterday, Tuesday was day 2 of the trial, kicked off at 9 a.m., and we got out around 4:45 after those closing arguments. So it was a jam-packed couple of days. Take a listen to the recap. After 3 days, 24 witnesses, and 50 pieces of evidence, suspended Dauphin County Judge Sonia McKnight has been found guilty of first-degree attempted murder and aggravated assault for shooting her ex-boyfriend Michael McCoy in the head while he was sleeping in the early morning hours of February 10th, 2024. The jury reached their verdict in less than 2 hours. McKnight's bail was set at $3 million, and she was taken immediately to the Dauphin County Prison. It was a jam-packed trial beginning Monday morning at 9 a.m. The jury heard from 17 witnesses throughout the day on Monday, including Susquehanna Police Department patrol officers and detectives, the EMS crews that treated McCoy, and forensic experts. Throughout the trial, body cam footage was showed recapping the minutes after police arrived at McCoy's home and up to police interviews with McCoy the day after the shooting. Gunshot residue was brought up frequently throughout the trial. A forensic scientist took the stand to break down her analysis of the gunshot residue tested in this case. She found McCoy's clothing and hands tested positive for having the maximum amount of gunshot residue present, whereas McKnight's pajama shorts, a singular sock, her robe, and one part of her hand tested positive for gunshot residue. Officers testified Monday morning McKnight washed her hands and dropped her shirt in the toilet before being tested for gunshot residue. Day 2 of the trial kicked off with McCoy's doctors at Hershey Medical Center testifying about the severity of his injuries. His trauma surgeon the night of the shooting said if the bullet went in a different trajectory by just a matter of centimeters, this would have been a very different outcome. On Tuesday, McCoy took the stand for the first time, and he touched on the year-long relationship with McKnight, saying, quote, "There were always problems." He says he made it clear to McKnight on Friday, February 9th, 2024, he was serious. The relationship was over. He then went to sleep. He says he woke up with excruciating pain. On the stand, he said, quote, "I thought I was having a brain aneurysm. I thought my brain was trying to get out of my head." He testified he was the one who asked McKnight to call 911 in the early hours of Saturday morning and was shocked to later learn he had been shot in the head. When asked if he shot himself, McCoy answered no. He says, "I don't know who shot me, but I didn't shoot myself." Tuesday afternoon, McKnight told the judge she would not be taking the witness stand. Her defense lawyer called for the case to be thrown out. That request was denied. In closing arguments, McKnight's lawyer told the jury the Commonwealth did not provide enough evidence to meet the burden of proof and to find McKnight not guilty. Whereas the Commonwealth asked the jury to piece all the evidence together and come to the conclusion McKnight was the one who pulled the trigger. He said to the jury, quote, "When you apply your common sense to this case, the only person who could have committed this crime is right here," McCormick said, pointing at McKnight. And in under 2 hours Wednesday morning, the jury came to that decision, finding Sonia McKnight guilty on 2 felony charges.
Also a new mugshot that we got within the last 2 hours.
Yeah, so that is newly released, and it's an interesting, picture that is accompanied on her crime watch announcing the charges. It's one of her smiling quite big. Definitely something that was surprising to see, if you would, something that will, as you mentioned earlier.
That's a mugshot, y'all. That's a mugshot. You see any remorse, guilt, anything?
Live on forever as of right now on that crime watch with the, pinned note, Sonia McKnight charged with, attempted murder.
Now, she was out of prison up until now. What did the judge do when it comes to her bail to get her in prison now?
So her initial bail was set at $300,000, which she originally posted, allowing her out until, today. But the judge increased her bail to $3 million. And when he made, that announcement, if you would, you could hear an audible gasp in the courtroom.
Wow.
So over a year later, Sonia is locked up for the first time after a long time of getting away with a lot. They decided to protect her by sending her to another jail. Instead of the jail she sent thousands of defendants to, the dishonorable former honorable judge is facing a maximum 60 years in prison. She'll find out how much mercy one of her former colleagues will have on her in May when the disgraced judge is back in court for sentencing. I think the second most annoying thing in this case is how these people in this county kept supporting this obvious lying narcissist.
Now tell me. I got tickets. I started out dancing. I'm still dancing. Never stop dancing. That's what's up. The queen killed it. And she helped me out.
Back in 2021, while she had pending criminal charges from the case involving her son, and 2 years after she intentionally shot her ex-husband premeditated, she ran for office again to maintain her seat. And guess what? She was reelected. That Democratic primary included 7 candidates. Sonia was one of them.
Now, who are the primary voters that would have made sure that happened? Y'all tell me.
She won that primary with 24% of the vote, beating her closest competitor, who had 23% of the vote, by only 13 votes. But in the general election, she had a big victory. No one from a major party ran against her, so she basically got all the votes, 98%. That was the second most annoying thing in this case. The citizens allowing her to win after she had already shot somebody and got away with it. And that's the number one most annoying part. Her getting away with that first premeditated situation. If she had been held accountable then for what she did to her husband, she wouldn't have been out of jail to tamper with her son's case or
Yeah, but the point is she shot a black male. She shot a black man. That's why it was irrelevant. That's why she could actually run for her position and get it back again. Because as far as her base is concerned, that's not a career-ending issue. Shooting a black man isn't. Now, had she shot another black woman, that'd be a different conversation. But shooting a black man, not part of the problem. This is why I called this particular episode "When Everybody Hates Chris" goes on for too long. The outcome of intracommunal black male hatred. That's essentially what we're seeing. So when we talk about black male hatred, we think about it like somebody screaming at the top of their lungs how much they hate you. It doesn't have to be like that. The act of hatred on one level is her shooting two men and being able to get that far and be a judge. But the deeper hatred that I'm pointing to are the black women who are the majority I would bet money on who reelected her, being oblivious to it. That's the hatred I'm talking about. That's why I called it intracommunal, right? Because I'm talking about what's happening within the black community. So as I said at the beginning of the broadcast, we can talk about the hatred black men experience in society. This is why John Sweeney's point for the black male political agenda, calling it the Emmett Till Law, makes sense, because we have historical evidence that black men have experienced an unprecedented amount of hate in the larger society. But what happens when it's happening within your own community? What happens when it's happening within your own families? What happens when that contempt is coming from the woman lying next to you? She shot her boyfriend in the fucking head because he wanted to break up with her. Now, it's a miracle the man is alive. He's blind, but he's alive. And that was the second man she shot. And it's only now that she's going to prison for this. You can't even be suspected of robbing or stealing something out of a liquor store as a black man and not have to worry about getting arrested. She done shot two men and abused her position for the sake of her son, and to mess with other people who got tickets, various things. She used her position the way she wanted to use it and still was able to get elected. This is ridiculous.
Commit any more ethics violations and break laws. And she definitely wouldn't be able to attempt to eliminate her boyfriend when he no longer wanted to put up with her. She was allowed to manipulate and conquer the system with her ex because of her position as a judge. And after she was allowed to get away with it the first time, she was more emboldened to the point she would aim at a man's head to wipe him out and then try to blame it all on him. But unfortunately for her, he survived to tell his story. We're talking about years of horrible, unchecked bad behavior. If you're a corrupt politician,
and y'all tell me what story she would have told had he died. What would have been the first thing she said? Because clearly, if he was shot in her bed, there's no way she was going to be able to avoid being involved. It's not like he got shot walking around outside and she can say she didn't have nothing to do with it, right? He was shot in her bed. But what do you think the first thing she would have said when questions were raised about how this man got shot? One of two things. Either someone broke in the house or it was self-defense because he was abusing me. And so you think about the self-defense argument, especially if a man is dead, is she's the one telling the story. She's the only one alive. So if he were dead, all she had to say was that he was abusive and I was defending myself. And that would stand for many people as justifiable. This woman has shot two men. Ain't seen a jail cell until now.
politician, you don't want to end up over here, because if you end up on my docket, you're definitely going down.
You're going to jail. You're going to jail.
Over a year after my first report on Sonya McKnight, the woman I named the City Girl Judge of PA is behind bars, hopefully for life, at 58 years old. Let's go ahead and get the conversation started. Tell me what you think of
58 years old. Now, throughout this broadcast, we've been jumping back and forth, and that wasn't intentional, as far as jumping back and forth between sexual assault and rape and murder. Didn't mean, I'm not implying it, that was intentional per se. It is what it is. But I'm merely pointing out that these are things that Black men are highly vulnerable to, right? Men are vulnerable to it in general, which is why we first looked at 2 Caucasian cases. But Black men are doubly vulnerable to it because the hostility within the community toward Black men, I would argue, is greater than any other group of men experienced within their own communities. And I'm counting white feminists in this as well. White feminists lobbied policy against their own men. But in terms of what Black men actually experience, much of it goes under the radar. Much of it. And men themselves don't speak about it. Look, I've gotten more, well, I'll say this. I've gotten about as much flack from other black men as I have from black women talking about the things I talk about. The black men's argument is that we shouldn't talk about these things in regard to black women, not only publicly, but we just shouldn't talk about it. We should just focus on the children. We should just focus on helping the community. We shouldn't talk about, what these women are experiencing, what they're doing. And the reason that so many of us have started to really talk about these things in the last 10 to 15 years is because it's not just that black women did this by themselves. It's that they were often able to leverage support and even institutional support that black men don't get. Even in this case that we're looking at here with this judge, she was able to abuse her position and get support from law enforcement that she works with on her behalf. Now, we talk about black women being able to leverage similar support on a macro level, whether it be family court or a police department, but being able to leverage those institutions on their behalf against their men. That's one of the things we talk about most consistently on this channel. That's why we talk about the gynocracy, because you can actually have a gynocracy develop when you're actually subsidized by an alien community, another community that is interested in underdeveloping yours. Now, since the civil rights movement, I charge that that's what the white community has been fixated about, silencing and underdeveloping the black community, most particularly through attacking its men, which has been happening since the onset of the black community. But the extent to which women participate in this and have internalized their own hatred of black men is incredibly important for us to talk about, because there's no type of community formation you're going to be able to develop until you deal with what we call anti-black misandry, most particularly from this gynocracy, this black gynocracy. This judge is a member of the black gynocracy. This is not something that's alien or new to her. She's been mistreating her men for a long time. Did you think she shot her husband and that was the first time she did something to somebody? That's the first time she got on record in some fashion, and didn't even really get on record with that. She lied her way out of it, but it became a part of the public record when this happened. My point is, she's been doing something to men much longer than that. This is one of the things we look at here, and we don't look at it because all other forms of oppression that black people experience are irrelevant. We look at it because this is an unspoken, swept under the rug dynamic in the black community. And what black men experience here is mirrored by other men around the world, including other men of African descent to some extent. But black men experience it here in a unique fashion that I argue goes beyond the pale. And it needs to be talked about. It needs to be studied. It needs to be analyzed. It needs to be researched and written about, because I've noticed that generations of men, my fathers and grandfathers and great-grandfathers' ages, have known about this for years and didn't say anything about it for a variety of reasons. And those men are still on me today to be quiet about this. These are the men that come up in send me DMs, that try to argue with me on Facebook. This is disruptive to the community. Was it disruptive when she shot her man in the fucking head and expected to get away with it? Was that disruptive? And when I can bring up case after case after case after case, was that disruptive? What about when we talk about the ongoing contempt that black men experience on an everyday level? What about that? Is that worth talking about? Often what I hear is no. Now, with women, it's slightly different. Women's argument is, yes, we should sweep this under the rug and forget about it. You're making too much out of these isolated cases. It's not real. Just calm down a little bit. But when it happens to women, now we need to circle the wagons then. Now it's an atrocity, because a woman has experienced some discomfort, God forbid, lost her life. But when it happens to men, we need to tamp that down. As one feminist told me, that's just that black male shit. It's not real, basically. And when Tommy Curry and many others in black male studies started to point out the empirical research behind this, when we started to look at intimate partner homicide, and we started to find that, even in the 80s, you actually had higher rates of it in terms of men experiencing it, women as aggressors. Nobody wanted to say anything about that. We started publishing books with reputable presses pointing out the data and the research going back, going back decades, generations. And it was silence. But this is not even the main course of tonight. Tonight is going to be a longer show. I haven't done any longer shows in a while. I wanted to take my time and walk through this. So this is another one. And then we'll get to our main one. And you'll understand why I couldn't skip this one once you see it. Right? But I had to get through it. I've been saving these for months. I just, hadn't done any shows. So check this out. Let's see if they have a picture. What's interesting to me too? These articles where they don't have pictures of the people in question. But when it's a brother that's guilty, they got his mugshot all over the place. All right. I'll go through this and then I'll pull up her picture. This is people.com. This is dated March 25th of this year. It says psychologist known as Bigfoot allegedly raped. I'm supposed to say graped. Well, ruin that one. Raped teen dozens of times at New York Youth Detention Center. Complaint. Right. The accused psychologist Maya Hayes also faces 65 criminal sex abuse charges. New York teenager was allegedly raped dozens of times by his psychologist while incarcerated at a youth detention center, all while staff at the center joked about it, he said in the lawsuit. The unnamed plaintiff, who is now 21, was 17 when the alleged sexual abuse began at Brookwood Youth Facility, a center for minors under the age of 16 who had convictions for violent felonies. Right? The accused psychologist, Maya Hayes, also faces 65 criminal sex abuse charges after Columbia County grand jury indicted her in 2024 for allegedly abusing 8 victims between the ages of 16 and 18 from 2020 to 2022, according to Times Union of Albany. Hayes pleaded not guilty and was released pending her trial, which is set to take place in July. A lawyer representing Hayes declined to comment on the case to People. The complaint, which was obtained by People, names 23 current and former employees at Brookwood Youth Facility as defendants, alleging they failed to prevent the alleged abuse from happening. In the complaint, the plaintiff claims he was abused by Hayes 30 times until she was fired in December 2022. Hayes allegedly began abusing the plaintiff in August 2021, 3 months after he arrived at Brookwood Youth Facility. The plaintiff accuses Hayes of putting pictures on the windows of her door as a way to block the view into her office so she could be hidden from view as she sexually assaulted him, according to the complaint. According to the complaint, Hayes groomed and manipulated the plaintiff into trusting that what she was doing had some basis in legitimate care and treatment. Then she subjected plaintiff to a course of predatory grooming, boundary violating, mental, emotional, and physical sexual abuse, the complaint alleges. The complaint further alleges that staff members were aware and made jokes about the alleged abuse. According to the complaint, Hayes was nicknamed Bigfoot at the facility, and the staff members would allegedly ask the plaintiff, "Are you doing things with Bigfoot? We see you in there with Dr. Hayes doing nasty stuff." The plaintiff, who is being represented by Evan Brustein and Marion Conde de Silveira, is seeking compensation for severe emotional distress, punitive damages, and attorney's fees incurred in the litigation. Now, let me pull up this picture here, see if I can find one. I had an obscure one on my Facebook page, but see if we can find one here. Interesting. Not very many. I don't see any that are directly showing her. Even the image I had was a side profile shot. And I don't want to put somebody else up here who might not be her. But unfortunately, from the side profile picture I do have, that this is a Black woman. Okay. I can't seem to find her picture. Interesting. Let me try. Accused. Let's try this. Accused of sexual assault. Okay. Yeah, this is the best picture I could find. Let me see if I can blow it up a little bit. Really? Damn it. All right. They want me to have a membership to that website to blow it up. Let me see if this one's New York Post. See if I can open it with this one. Bear with me for one moment. Again, I had this all up, but I had to reboot before the show started, so I apologize. All right, where'd it go? There we go. Okay, let me see if I can share this one. Yep, here we go. So there she is in the seated position. God, these websites get on my damn nerves. I have to always get rid of my ad blockers with this. Sorry, that's about as large as I can get it. But there you go. That's her. Thank you, Kevin. Sorry about that. I didn't see your request, but I think I found the one you're talking about. This is the one I actually had on my Facebook page. I wasn't able to find very many clear shots of her. Yeah, exactly, Nameless. What's good to see you, man. Yeah, I only got the side profile too. Every time I tried to look her up, I found women that were much younger. So I didn't want to put anyone's picture up here that wasn't her. You know what I mean? But I found very few. This is actually the only picture I found of her. Right? But the key point in this that I want you guys to remember is with this particular case, right? Where did it go? Not only that she faces 65 criminal sex abuse charges, right? But she's also dealing with it from multiple people. So this one gentleman who, leveraged this, who put forth this case, has said he was raped dozens of times. But where did it go? Yeah, it says, I read this earlier. This is she had allegedly abused 8 victims between the age of 16 and 18 from 2020 to 2022. Right? So 65 times she violated the law with somewhere between 6 to 8 victims that we know of. Right? Having a position in a facility like this. Now, the main case we're going to look at tonight is a relatively short video. It's less than 10 minutes. But this is actually of a gang member who had actually experienced something very reminiscent of this when he was in a youth detention center as a young man. Okay. And I want you to hear him. So he is essentially very much like the person she violated, but he's older now. Right? And he's going to talk about his experience with this very thing from a youth. So again, we're talking about, in this instance, how women will use position and authority to violate those more vulnerable. In this instance, we're talking about young boys, whether it has to do with sexual assault and rape, or sometimes whether it has to do with murder. Right? We're looking at the ways that this happens in the community and the various ways that we can overlook these kinds of practices. We talk about it all day when it comes to men. When it comes to women, we hear about it. They may even go to jail, and then it quickly disappears. But this gentleman's name is Jay Hood. He has about 17,000 subscribers. To my understanding, he's still locked up. And what I'm told is he's a blood. But he's going to talk a little bit about his experience when he was younger. I think he's converted to Islam, but I think he's going to talk about his experience when he was younger in a youth detention center. I want you to listen to what he talks about in regard to his experience. Check this out. Let me make sure the sound is up. There we go. So this is our main case tonight. And this is what we're talking about in terms of when everybody hates Chris goes on for too long. The outcome of intracommunal black male hatred, right? These things, when you're hated in your own community, let alone in the larger society, these things happen and they come and go without any traction, without any movement, without any mention. Here we go.
I was in camp. My mother had just passed away. And I was really angry. So I used to just pick fights with people. And one day, somebody who was working, a probation officer, that's what they call a DPO. I'm not gonna say her name. She came to talk to me and asked me why wasn't I so social? And I told her what I was going through. So she gave me a lending hand. She used to talk to me. Used to put me out class and talk to me. And one day.
Now that's predatory behavior out the gate. Now, as a teacher, I've been in this position for what I've been teaching now, 1998. What is that? 27 years? Going on 28 years. I can't tell you how many times I've advocated for somebody. And the thing about advocating for a student is they are extremely vulnerable when they haven't had anyone stand for them. And you become a support system for them. Most of us, well, I'd like to think that we've experienced that, but sometimes people haven't. But when you have somebody stand for you and you're not used to having anybody in your corner, it can be an extremely vulnerable experience. It can touch your heart. It can open you up in ways that you've never been opened up before, to have somebody seem to support you, especially somebody with stature, somebody with position, somebody with authority. She's not doing this arbitrarily. This is not an accident. She knows full well what she's doing. These are young men in the juvenile detention center. And this particular young man, he talked about it a little earlier, was getting into all kinds of fights left and right, even in the facility once he got there, because he was so angry about his mother dying. And this is how she approached him. This is predatory behavior.
Why we alone during school, she performed oral sex on me. And then from then on, she kind of like forced me to be in a relationship with her. I was a kid. I was too young to consent. I was going through too much duress to consent. She was sitting on my face, just doing everything that a kid shouldn't be doing. Everything a kid should not have no parts in. She was forcing me to do. She used to make stupid comments. Like, it was a dude who he was from 18th Street. He had just recently got out of juvenile hall out of camp. And he was only out of jail 2 weeks. And he got unalived. And it was, it was sad because a lot of his friends were still there. And anybody that you know that you go through a traumatic event with, and when I say traumatic, I'm going to say being in juvenile hall, because that's a traumatic experience, you become close to. And it was just a sad scenario to see that this dude, so young, maybe 17 at the time, get murdered. But I remember her calling me inside the office, and she wasn't my probation officer, so she wasn't in charge of my case or giving me phone calls. But she called me inside the office and was like, I was thinking, your mama just passed away. I don't want you to go out there by yourself. I was thinking about refiling on you so you can stay with me another 6 months. How would you like that? I'm like, what? Stay in jail another 6 months? Are you crazy? Then she said, you ain't got no mama or nothing. You ain't got no family. I was appalled. I was crazy. I was like, hold on, wait. You think just because my mother passed away, I don't got a family? Like, I don't go to visiting? Like, my grandma wasn't coming up here every weekend to come visit me? Like, I didn't have a father? Like, I didn't have sisters who loved me? And at the time, no, I didn't think it was anything wrong with it. Because I was a kid. But now that I have a son, I think.
Now, this is real. This is real. I've experienced, violation. I've talked about this years ago on my show. Before, I think the first time I had to be about 3. And the second time I was about 8 or 9. I didn't really think anything of it. Matter of fact, I didn't even remember the first one until I was grown. And at that point, I didn't really feel like it affected me because in my head, I hadn't thought about it in 20 odd years. But when I had a son, that changed everything. I changed everything because I watched this boy come out of his mother. I held him when he was taking his first breaths. You know what I mean? I had never truly seen pure innocence before until I had a son. And now when I think about these kinds of situations, they have a whole different impact on me, because when it happened to me, I just thought, hey, whatever, it is what it is. I really didn't know how to interpret it. But when you're holding your firstborn, in my case, my only born, and you're seeing pure innocence, you are watching him learn how to interact with the world. And the very first time he tells you a lie, it's hard not to laugh in his face because he doesn't know how to do it. I never bear witness to pure innocence before until I had a child. So now when I think about a grown person manipulating my child to exploit them, I have a whole different response than I had for myself when I went through it. So I understand what he's talking about. He couldn't advocate for himself until he had a son. And when you witness that and you see your child the way somebody should have seen you, you take on a whole different response to this. Well, some people do, like myself. Other people look at it like he got some. But the data shows us that, boys who experience this go through the same psychological trauma that girls do. Research the paper written by Tommy Curry and Ebony Utley called She Touched Me. They talk about the data on this. Boys go through the same psychological and emotional issues that girls who are violated at young ages go through. Only difference is there's no public will behind advocating for these young men. And much of the time, there are no facilities. So they end up in juvenile facilities, often due to unregulated, unreconciled emotions and psychological trauma in relation to what they experienced. There are certain things that can happen too early, can happen too problematically. And this idea that just because we all have penises, that's supposed to be enough to make any kind of sexual act excusable or acceptable is fucking ridiculous. It's ridiculous. But we often don't know how to advocate for ourselves until we have to advocate for someone else. And when I was charged with protecting this life that one day I'm holding in my arms, changed my whole worldview. So I'm feeling him 100% on that.
Think, dang, what if my son is 15 years old and a 40-year-old woman is sitting on his face? Or, man, doing all that stuff to him. I would be furious. Because at the end of the day, it's R-A-P-E. It is. And that's what any parent subjects their child to. When you just leave them inside the system. When you put them around strangers. Why would you let a stranger be in charge of raising your child? I was taught so many wrong things. My mother died, and I raised myself after that. And I wasn't the only one. Every female had a little boy toy that was in camp with, bro. Everybody. And want to go home, and you would be like, what the heck? I thought she was so in love with Wooty Woo. As soon as he done went home, the next big dog in camp, she dealing with now. These females was getting pregnant and all type of stuff by minors.
Now, just to let you know, I got a brother of mine who works in a juvenile detention center, and I sent him this video. And he texted me back this morning. I'll read the text directly to you. Hold on. Yeah. So I sent him the video. This is what he wrote me this morning. He said, happens all the time. Just happened at my site a few weeks ago with a therapist and a youth. But I want to highlight the importance of what this young man just said, though, right? He said that when you get out, you're replaced. She has a new boy toy, right? These women are getting pregnant. They're going through, and replacing them. This is what I talk about this in the closing recording of some of my shows where I talk about us being perceived as walking phalluses. That's what I mean. That's what I mean. We're replaceable, we're disposable, and we are often treated as walking phalluses, even at a young age. This is a juvenile detention center. So you have women working white-collar jobs, often with graduate degrees, who are treating these boys like a crop of phalluses. Literally what it is. Taking advantage of them, sending them out of a rotating door, and taking the next one that walks in. This is a regular occurrence. And we're starting to talk about teachers who are doing this with students, but there are so many different places we're not looking yet. We're not looking at COs and detention centers. A lot of people haven't even started talking about nuns. Remember a few years ago, everybody was talking about, priests in Boston and what they were doing to little boys. And that was important. It needed to be dealt with. One of the things I talked about on this show, and I'm pretty sure I'm the one that broke it in this space, talking about these issues. I actually looked up nuns one day, and going back 100 years, I found stories about young boys, 12, 13 years old, who didn't know what sex was. One young man thought kissing is how babies were made. You had grown women in their 20s, 30s, and 40s who were having sex with 12-year-old boys under the aegis of the Catholic Church as nuns. And what the church would do, like with priests, they would just rotate them to different places, different churches, different whatever. With nuns, they would do the same thing. But when the nuns got pregnant, sometimes they would send them out of the country. And there were places that they would go to sometimes where they would abort the child. Other times they'd give the child up for adoption, but there'd be no conversation about it. But think about the trauma that this would cause. You got a 13-year-old boy who only knows that this nun who he trusted as his teacher took advantage of him. He knows that she's pregnant, and then the church sends her somewhere, usually to Ireland, out of the country, right? He knows there's a child that he got her pregnant with. He doesn't know if the child lived or not. He doesn't know if the child's being raised somewhere. All he knows for the rest of his life is that he's never seen the nun again, and he doesn't know the fate of his child. And he didn't know what sex was when she did it. So it's not that men only commit this and women don't. It's that men and women do things in different ways, but they can be damaging in different ways. She may not have needed to hold him down and hold a knife to his throat. He was young and ignorant. And an older woman in a position of authority can take advantage of a younger man who doesn't know what's going on. But the impact, you imagine that, 12 years old, you get a 35-year-old woman pregnant, never see her again, and don't know what happened to your child. What does that do to a young man? That would fuck with me now. What would it do to you at 13? You can later have a wife and kids of your own, and you're always wondering in the back of your head, is there another child walking around with my face in this world? That's the kind of psychological trauma that can be caused from these kind of situations. It doesn't happen when men violate women. It happens the other way around. There are unique features to each type of assault. But we don't talk about that because the label for how this happens is strictly men to women. But there are key characteristics about how women violate men that we have to learn how to talk about. By the way, fair use.
Minors. Playing with our mail. I remember old girl, females used to write me. She used to take my mail. Used to tell me, these little fast-ass girls writing you again. You need to tell these fast-ass girls, stop writing my man. And I'm thinking back in my head, like, you Jigglypuff, you big round. Yeah, she was big and round. You big round bowling ball body. Man. But I ain't gonna get too deep into it because, like I said, that's personal. I just want to share my personal experience. And I'm a father. Don't never throw your child away. Don't because you send your child to jail, you make him resent you. And you can make him feel like he's worthless, like he don't matter. And yeah, I made mistakes to get to end up in juvenile hall. But my mama used to come visit me every weekend, and I love her. And when she passed away, I was devastated. My grandma used to come, and I love her. And I rest in peace to my grandmother on my mother's side and my grandma that's on my dad's side. I love her. I love her to death. She used to come visit me also. You know, that's when I spoke up and I just went to the hospital. But man, it's just a sad story when the people who are getting paid to be your protector really are being paid to abuse you. They really become your abusers. Kids, stay out of jail. Jail is not fun. You don't know what's the traumatic experiences you going through right now. Kids, teenagers, they're going to affect you when you're 20, 30. When you realize that, dang, that wasn't right. That wasn't right. Is something wrong with me? Why I don't think like the average kid is because you wasn't having the average experiences. So, parents, watch your kids. Watch them. This stuff is serious. And this stuff is real serious. It was people who was fighting over these girls. You disrespect or you get into an argument with one of these female deputies, female probation officers, and she'll get her boyfriend to fight you. And really beat people up. Because any...
Now, y'all know, if you're a longtime listener to my show, I call that pit bullying, right? When women will sick a man against somebody else for whatever reasons. It could be a sister sicking her brother on somebody. It could be a girlfriend sicking her boyfriend, or hell, a wife sicking her husband on somebody. Now, we call it protection when it's done in good faith. When she's actually threatened and innocent and needs help. And there's nothing wrong with that. Protecting your wife, protecting your sister. I'm not calling that into question. But let's not pretend there aren't women that abuse that, which is what he's talking about. So you have these grown women who are manipulating young boys, taking advantage of them sexually, right? But then when they have problems with some of the other boys, they're sicking their boy toys on them and getting these young men beat up. That's what I call that pit bullying. And it happens in so many different circumstances, but it's unique to hear it happening within a juvenile detention center. So now we're talking about the abuse of discipline, right? So when you're talking about like a male facility run by men, and we've heard about the stories, God forbid if you had to live through it, where you know men are getting locked up, they're being forced to fight like gladiatorial games. You know, the guards are betting on them and setting up these fight rings. We hear about those kind of cases, but we don't hear about how women participate in their own way. See, that's what I mean by the difference. It's not that women don't participate. It's that they participate in different ways that haven't been criminalized in the same way men's methods have been. So when you talk about gladiatorial games in a prison, we all resonate with what that means. We've seen movies about it. There's only a handful of movies where you'll see female COs, you know, exploiting young men and then setting them to war against other men for their own purposes, arbitrary or not. Right? We don't have a language for it. Not one that resonates in the larger public, but it doesn't mean it doesn't happen.
A kid is not supposed to experience that level of. It's like, how can I'm sorry, I'm blanking out because I can't believe I'm even expressing this. But I'm really expressing this because I really want to help somebody, and I don't want y'all to go through what I've been through. Because it's not cool and it's not normal. It's not. You know what? I'm going to post this. God bless you. God bless you, man. All praises to the Most High. I'm just happy that I'm strong. Allah made me strong. I got past that. I got through that. And Allah made me strong enough to share that story with you. Allah Akbar.
All right. So that's what I wanted to share with y'all tonight. That's what I wanted to share with y'all. I don't really do a lot on celebrities. I have a hard time keeping up with whatever's popular in the news, but I think there needs to be a place where we actually talk about the things that matter to our daily lives, how they may impact us, impact our families, in this case, our sons, nephews, so on and so forth. But the reality of the contempt that we've all talked about and experienced in a variety of different ways and different levels and to different degrees of intensity, and how a lot of that contempt is aimed at Black men and boys in very unique ways that we're supposed to be quiet about. And I think it's past time that we stop being quiet about it and we call it out. Because as I've said, whether you're advocating for the redemption of the Black community or not, these issues still have to be talked about. They got to be dealt with. Because at the end of the day, this is what a lot of us experienced and what a lot of us are still experiencing. And there are many people out there that are profiting off of our pain and our death for their own purposes. And some of those people are within the Black community. So I'm not about, just letting this happen without any acknowledgement. I'm going to write about it, going to talk about it, going to, suggest my brothers do the same. But this is what we need to do. Because this has been going on for too long. And finally, I've lived long enough to see Black men start to collectively respond to how they're treated. Many are walking away. Many are going elsewhere. Many are going monk, all in response to how they've been treated. And I applaud it. I applaud it. If the community refuses to give Black men a better deal or even acknowledge what Black men are saying, then I highly suggest that you find your peace wherever you find it. Wherever you find it. If you decide to completely check out and just take care of yourself, that's what brings you peace. You find a woman here, whether she Black, otherwise, and you find peace in that relationship, hey, I ain't gonna eat your lunch about that. I told one brother who just, we were having these conversations, Black nationalist brother out the Bay. He just went to Senegal and he's having the time of his life. He said, Doc, man, ain't nothing out here but 8s and 10s walking around. And he said, they are open to talking to brothers and they, he's having a great time, enjoying the food, enjoying the women, enjoying the treatment. Talked about how he met a woman, she cooked for him, had a good meal, had a good time. And he sent me a picture. And I told him this. I said, let me tell you, I don't care who you with. I'm 50 years old. I've lived long enough to know that finding connection is not easy. Can't be taken for granted. Because I've only experienced it a couple of times in my life. I don't take it light. But here's the thing. I don't give a damn who you with. I don't give a damn whether I like her or not. I don't give a damn if she's fine. Let me tell you what I care about. When you send me a picture or if I meet y'all both in person, the only thing I'm looking for is the look on your face. If you have anything less than an ear-to-ear smile, I got questions. I don't give a damn who she is. I don't give a damn how she looks. So when a brother sends me a picture or tells me this is what he's doing, the only thing I care about is, are you actually at peace and are you content? Does she bring drama? Does she drain life energy like a leech? Or can you just do nothing but smile in her presence? And if you decide to just completely disassociate altogether, are you content with that? I'm good either way. My only question is, how are you? And are you enjoying your walk? Whatever that is. That's it. That's all I really care about. So feel free to send me pictures. Tell me how happy you are. I don't care. I don't care what country she's from. I don't care what you're doing. But the only question I have is, do you have a smile on your face? Are you at peace? And if you're not, then maybe we need to revisit what you're doing. Whatever that may be. And it's not about what other people think of it or her or whatever. It's just a question of whether or not you are content. So that's the question I think we need to ask ourselves. That's the question I think we need to be concerned about. And even for our brothers, when they tell us they are living their lives and doing their thing, are they truly content? Because I can't tell you how many brothers I've seen with a gorgeous woman on their arms looking stressed, drained, pissed off, irritated. Gorgeous woman. And if you got a woman that isn't conventionally attractive, but you smiling ear to ear, I salute you. Because I don't give a damn about it. I ain't got to sleep with her. She your woman. Question is, are you content? That's all I care about. Are you safe? Are our boys safe? Are we being violated and told that we're supposed to be happy about it? Told that we're supposed to ignore it so other people don't feel bad about what you have to say? Fuck all of that. Are you content? Are you safe? Those are the things that matter. And if you're not, find support, speak up, so we can change the circumstances. All right, y'all. Appreciate y'all rocking with me tonight. 339 people currently watching. Please hit the like button if you haven't donated. Support the show. And I will holler at y'all soon. Like I said, Thursday night, 5 p.m. Pacific, on my Patreon channel, I will do a review of G20. And I will wait to hear from y'all. If anybody wants to talk about Sinners sometime this week, if enough of you have gone to see it, we can go ahead and do that. So, holler at me, let me know. Especially my media regulars, if y'all are interested in doing it, let me know. But other than that, y'all have a good night. I'll let y'all soon. Peace. I am here to tell you, brothers, we are not criminals by birth, perennial rapists, incapable intellects, man-children, sperm donors, child support wellsprings, success objects, walking phalluses, ATM machines, lottery tickets, unintelligent henchmen, valueless assassins, pro bono mercenaries, unpaid bodyguards, interchangeable stepfathers, child discipline proxies, unpaid repairmen, workhorses, emotional tampons, or any other socially accepted dehumanizing stereotype. We are thinkers, inventors, innovators, leaders, fathers, and men. Embrace your humanity, know your worth, and extend your time, attention, and resources only to those who genuinely respect you. And remember, your worth is not defined by meeting other people's narcissistic, selfish, and unrealistic needs. You define your worth. Peace.